the vast majority, will get to keep their plans. He no longer works at the White House. From that podium, will you admit that when the president said, if you have a plan, you'll get to keep it, that was not true?
Well, let's be clear. What the president said and what everybody said all along is that there are going to be changes brought about by the Affordable Care Act to create minimum standards of coverage.
Right. And then he also said that if you like your plan, you could keep it, period. And tonight we have dug up an IRS form from 2010 that shows that this administration knew that over 10 million Americans would not keep their plan, could not keep their doctor, and yet the president went out as recently as 2012 and said, if you like your plan, you could keep it. Meantime, there is a regulation, an IRS regulation that was pushed by HHS, Human Services, that estimated that tens of millions were going to get dumped.
And that's exactly what happened, and that's what's starting to happen. The tens of millions are starting to be dumped one at a time, as that very careful caveat of minimum restrictions has been implemented, meaning that what people thought their grandfathered plan would allow them to continue to get is now actually putting the insurance companies out of business, and they are canceling policies left and right. Upwards of 14 million people may be impacted by these decisions. They've changed the game. There are two teams on the field, but now one of the teams is also in charge of the refereeing, and they've changed the rules. Only one of the teams can score by just putting the ball over the goal line. The other team has to go through a very narrow way to get into the end zone. It's a completely different reality than what most people thought the Affordable Health Care Act was going to give us. Let's go back to your calls, 888-589-8840. Eric has been very patient in Oklahoma. Thank you, Eric, for your patience. You're on with Kevin McCullough. Hi.
Well, thanks for letting me come on, Kevin. I appreciate it. I appreciate your program. God bless you for what you do.
Thank you.
If I could first say to the lady that just called, there are other options, and I will describe those in describing our situation. Okay? We bought our policy back in the summer of 01. It was $3,400 annually, my wife and I and all of our children, 8 children.
Sure.
And by the time the President Bush, after 8 years, had left office, it had basically doubled to $6,900. By the time that we dropped our policy 6 weeks ago, it had increased, Kevin, to $15,400 annually. We couldn't afford that anymore. So
right.
we dropped it, and we picked up Christian Healthcare Ministries. And under this Christian Health Sharing Ministry, our annual rate is $10,000 cheaper. So, to this lady, I would say, ma'am, check into Christian Healthcare Ministries, to MediShare, and to Samaritan Ministries. Those are all available options under the Abominable Care.
To be very candid, Eric, and it's very important that we be truthful about this. None of those programs are actual insurance programs.
No, those are not insurance.
Those are healthy living programs in which you share costs with people that are in a pool. It is a cash-based system, more or less, but it is a way of sharing the cost. And I have nothing but admiration for those programs. But there are some stipulations that may, in fact, affect people when it comes to the consumption of alcohol or the use of tobacco or some other things that if people already have, they may not even find themselves eligible for. So on that level, it's not exactly the same, but it is a very good word. I appreciate the encouragement. Did you want to add something?
Well, yes, Kevin. Regarding the president, and two things regarding the president and his telling fibs regarding the then proposed Health Insurance Act. What is that called in Islam? Taqiyya? That the doctrine that says that you don't have to tell the truth. I think that plays a role in the fact that the president doesn't tell the truth. And further, how do you know when a politician is lying when they open their mouth? And with regard to people being able to keep their health insurance, Kevin, I think from the get-go they knew that they were going to be driving up costs just by the talk of socialized medicine over the past number of years. As I say, our rate went from $6,900 to $15,400. They knew the rates would get so high that people couldn't afford health insurance on the private market anyway. And so that was one way that millions of people were going to lose their coverage in addition to just the nature of
That's
the fact that
that's
you've been
partially
talking
true,
about
no
today.
doubt about it. I know several small. Thank you, Eric, for the call. I know several small business owners that had seen the rates for their employee pools go up considerably, and the amount of benefits that they were getting had been reduced. It's not that things were rosy in the other market before. The challenge being, though, that and if you were ever able to get a policy that covered a family of 8 kids and 2 parents for $3,400 for the year, that's incredible. The policy for my family is going to run around $11,000 to $12,000 for this year, and that has partly to do with the stage of life we're in and where we live and so forth. But I can't imagine a tenfold increase in that. That couldn't be produced. And I don't know what the expectation should be. We probably should be expecting that we're going to get one of those letters at some point in time. 14 million people that are buying their health insurance privately are likely to be canceled. 888-589-8840. Let's talk to Mike in Virginia. Mike, you're next on AFA Today. Glad you're with us.
Thanks for taking my call, Kevin. I've heard a lot of numbers on here that far exceed what's happened to me so far, but my story basically is I'm no rocket science, and none of this surprises me. Back when I'm retired from a major corporation, forced out in one of those downsizing and outsourcing kind of situations, and at the time I retired, my cost was $50 a month. $600 a year. My cost has increased every year since 2001, and as of January 1st this coming year, my rate has increased from last December's rate by $3,000 a year. So 500% over what I was paying annually, it has increased in the last year from what I first started paying.
Sure.
So, it just, and this does not surprise me. My wife and I started looking back in October because the corporation that I'm retired from has a very early enrollment period, and it's only 2 weeks long. And it starts before October 1st. And we were trying to get information from multiple sources, including Medicare. We called Medicare about a week before I had to make a decision. This was back before October 1st. We're still waiting for them to call us. Online, it said they would call us. Leave your phone number, your information. We will call you. We still haven't heard from them 4 weeks later. The people we got information from, like our pharmacy and so forth, they said, well, we can give you this information now, but as of November 1st, it's going to be no good.
Right.
And on top of that, we were one of the early ones. I had to make a decision by the 6th. The company I'm with now, I have to make a decision by the 1st of November. And, of course, Medicare is sometime between now and mid-December. So, I mean, they're staggered. Their information is incomplete. The information is changing in the middle of the decision period. This was designed to fail.
That's what more and more people are asking the question on, Mike, and I thank you for your call. I don't have proof that it was, but it sure seems like it sure seems like if they knew for 3 years that you were going to have massive numbers of people being canceled, having their policies canceled, private direct purchase policies be canceled. You already knew in the corporate business side you were going to start having those peel-offs happen last year when the opportunities to get into the exchanges and to do all of that stuff began to be a reality. Companies just started saying, nope, we're not going to renew next year. It's just not going to happen. How many people to date have actually lost their insurance? Who knows? We know 1 million have lost in just the direct to the consumer policies just within the last few weeks. That category alone is expected to lose now up to 14 million cancellations. Let's go to Debbie in Tennessee. Debbie, welcome. You're on AFA Today with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here.
Thank you. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
My husband and I had a policy that we had for years that we had to let lapse because of a decrease in income a few years ago. So the first of this year, I took out an individual policy for myself. And then I did receive one of these letters now saying that my plan does not meet the, the
Minimum
standards for
requirements.
benefits. Yeah,
Yep.
the general requirements. This plan, I feel like, now that it's going to at least double. The lady earlier mentioned the $1,167 per month for a plan. I've been quoted that on one plan, and all of the plans that I've looked at are, the percentages are lower than what I've got right now. I've got 80-20, and this is 70-20 or even 50-50 with the deductibles, higher deductibles, and higher premiums. And with our joint income, we are probably not going to qualify for subsidies. And I don't know, that we can afford that I'm going to be able to keep paying the premium, much less come up with the 50% when I go to the doctor.
Yeah. I don't know what to say, Debbie. I think that there are so many people that are in shoes similar to yours, and this is one of those things where what the American people really need to understand is that elections actually do have consequences. And in 2014, this is where, and I think that the establishment Republicans in the last few weeks made real fools of themselves, because they kept saying there's nothing that can be done about this Obamacare thing. We just have to let it come through. And Ted Cruz had the courage to stand up and say, but this is going to hurt people's lives. This is going to hurt people in homes from coast to coast. And I don't think that he did the damage to himself politically that a lot of people seem to imply that he did, because he understood in advance of everything that callers are telling me today. He understood in advance of all of that this reality was on its way. And he was trying to say, hey, look, we need to stop this. We need to defund this. We need to make this go away. And the John McCains and the Lindsey Grahams and these people of the world, the guys that stood with Cruz, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, they should be thanked. There should be a pat on the back for those guys, because what they did is they stood up and told the American people the truth. Evidently, the president didn't feel that we were deserving of the truth even 3 years ago, when instead of saying, yes, there will be tens of millions of you that lose policies, he said, nope, you can keep your insurance if you like it, period. No limitations, no other language around it. You can keep it, period. Some of us were saying at the time, I wrote extensively about it in my syndicated pieces, that this was not true. That there was a significant, if you go back and read No He Can't, you will find a good chunk of section where I deal with this repeatedly. This can't be true because mathematically it would not work if everything was being done the way we were being sold that it would. And friends, we as a culture, as a country, we bought into this we can get something for free thing, and it really scratched an itch for us. And now we have hives all over our bodies. It's like poison ivy, just spread. Every time we scratch it, it just got worse. Let's go to Rodney in Alabama. Rodney, you're on with Kevin McCullough. Glad you're here on AFA Today. Hi.
Yes, thank you, Brother McCullough. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Speaking out and breaking through the airwaves today and taking off a normal programming to discuss such an important issue. No, I'm disabled, have been since 2004, and I fully understand both sides of the spectrum, from a $130,000 a year working person. I'm 45 years old, and now to the point where I can't work. And I see the changes even in the disability part. And personally, my point of view on me being disabled and having to have an entitlement program, it's disgusting to me that I have to be on it. I don't even want to be on it. I would love to be able to have a job I could do.
Good for you.
But that's on the other side of the spectrum of what you're talking about. But I would like to point out, this is like with Obamacare. I have a question for you, really. I would like to, if you would verify for me. They're trying to fix Obamacare, not that I'm for it. So they've sold it to a company that's owned, I'm understanding, by Prince William, the Queen of England's grandson. And they have been appointed to jobs and sold this contract to them to fix the website for all this here quote-unquote mess that's going on with it. But also, I would like to ask you, have you personally read the agenda, which is Agenda 21, and seeing the implications about health care for the region, the western region of the world in relation to what's going on. This is just like one piece of the pie as we study the mathematical points and, say, percentage-wise of what's really coming down on this country in this day and this time. As our eyes really open or in the spirit of Christ, or are we really seeing the full picture? This is just one little piece of the pie in comparison to what is really about to hit us with this wave.
Well, Rodney, and I don't have all the answers to everything that you asked. I do know this, that the original Canadian firm that they outsourced the original architecture of the Obamacare system to did not have a track record of success. So why they outsourced it to that particular group of people, I really cannot explain. Whether or not Prince William is involved in the new version, I'm not sure. In terms of this being the first part of a wave that's coming of much greater destruction, yes, I believe that that's very, very possible. Financially, in terms of the average family, in terms of the use of religious liberties in America, and a number of other things. There is a godless agenda that is being implemented. Friends, it's up to people of Jesus to pray diligently for the slowdown of that advance and for hopefully the turnaround. But one thing is sure, we cannot take action if we do not have knowledge, and that's why you need to be here every day for AFA Today. I'm Kevin McCullough. Tonight on The Kevin McCullough Show, much more related to this and two other stories that aren't being covered today that you need to know about. That's The Kevin McCullough Show tonight on select channels here on the AFR Talk Network. I'm Kevin McCullough. We'll see you next time here on AFA Today.
The views and opinions expressed